Have you heard that lack of deep sleep can make us feel really tired? Have you perhaps worried that this is the reason you felt drained, exhausted, or maybe you've just been curious about this? Maybe you just wondered if this is the case. If so, this episode is for you. This edition of Heard Online is going to look at the question of whether insomnia causes a lack of deep sleep. That is the question. And the reason we're talking about this today is really Coach Alina. She and I had a conversation, and somebody brought this up. They had heard that insomnia causes a lack of deep sleep, and she was like, "It would be nice to have some evidence to show that this may not be the case," which we both knew. We both kind of knew that wasn't the case. So I'm kind of giving out the answer here very early, but nonetheless, I think it's very helpful to know why do I say that, and where do these answers come from. And by the way, I want to clarify that when I say deep sleep here, I don't mean the subjective feeling of like, oh, I had a really deep restful sleep, but from an EEG perspective, delta sleep, the EEG definition of deep sleep is what we're talking about here. So in today's Heard Online, we're going to look at this. And by the way, as many of you know, I like to find a claim made on the World Wide Web, such as, insomnia causes decrease in deep sleep. I actually couldn't find one, although I've heard this many times before. So we'll treat this as like an urban legend, like something we hear circulating, an idea that we hear circulating that we will take a close look at. And another thing that we're doing a little different today is that we're using ChatGPT. I was like, I was starting to Google, to find some study to look at, but then I was like, oh, ChatGPT could do this. If you're not familiar, this is like a very, very fascinating, like, I don't know what to call it, like an AI machine learning type of software where you can, you can ask the questions, and it scans the World Wide Web, and it summarizes things very nicely for you. So I went to ChatGPT and asked, can EEG tell the difference between someone with insomnia and someone who sleeps well? And ChatGPT says, EEG can provide information about the electrical activity in the brain during sleep. Yes, we know that. While EEG alone cannot diagnose insomnia or differentiate between someone with insomnia and someone who sleeps well, it can provide some insight. So it was an interesting kind of like hedging type answer from ChatGPT. On one hand, ChatGPT clearly says no, EEG cannot tell the difference, but then throws in but it can provide some insight. Anyways, that was just a little something I noted. So ChatGPT had the answer for us, sort of, because it doesn't really specify about deep sleep in this answer, but it sort of gave us an answer. But then I said, okay, can you give me a reference? Can you give me a reference for the statement that EEG cannot differentiate between someone with insomnia and someone who sleeps well? And let's try to actually generate a response to see what it looks like. So ChatGPT is thinking here, and then it says, let's see what it says. Nothing. It's really thinking much harder this time than last time. Oh, this is remarkable. I don't know what it's doing. It worked so well before. Oh my gosh, what are you doing, ChatGPT? Network error. Oh my gosh, let's try one more time. If it doesn't work this time, I'll just tell you what it shows. So I'll just tell you, actually. Last time it said certainly, and it gave me a reference to an article in a textbook. Oh, here we go. Yes. Okay, I can provide a reference for that statement. According to a review article published in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine, while EEG can provide information about quality and characteristics of sleep, it is not a reliable tool for diagnosing insomnia or differentiating between individuals with insomnia and those without. Here is the reference for the article, Rosenberg. All right, very, very interesting. So we could have reviewed this article, but last time I asked it, it quoted a chapter in a book by by Bussy and coworkers. So I tried to find that, which I couldn't, but I found an article by the same author. Next up, we're gonna look at, have some technical difficulties today, but yeah, here it is. Next, we're gonna look at this. So this is an article from I think it was from 2008, actually, from a group in working out of Pittsburgh. And basically, they got 48 participants who had insomnia. 29 of them were women, and 25 who were in a control group that they called good sleeper controls. Okay, and they looked with EEG 2 nights. The first night actually was more to screen for sleep apnea with polysomnography. The second night was what we're the data that we're going to look at comes from the second night where we're comparing sleep stages. And we're going to jump right into the main data here, where we're comparing like both objective data and subjective data from the good sleep control group and the primary insomnia group. Okay, so here we have the control group, and here we have the insomnia group. And in the first set of the first things we're going to look at are these questionnaires. So there was a questionnaire about depression, and as expected, the insomnia group scored higher in a significantly higher. P was less than 0.05. There was also more anxiety in that group. There was also more hyperarousal, and sleep quality was high. Well, I don't want to say higher, but the sleep quality index was higher, which means that they have more trouble sleeping and also estimated feeling more sleepy. So on a subjective level, clearly the insomnia group was not feeling as well as a good sleeper control group. No surprises there, right? Now, sleep diary wise, also I would say no surprises. Both the control group and the insomnia group spent about the same time in bed, spent about 7 hours and 40 minutes or so in bed. No difference there. But here comes the big difference. The control group estimated falling asleep on average in about 8 minutes. In the insomnia group, the estimated average was about 42 minutes. So there's a clearly big difference there. The control group said they spent about 4 minutes awake after they fell asleep, versus the insomnia group, we said that was about 30 minutes. So big difference there. Total sleep time, also difference. The control group estimated sleeping a little bit more than 7 hours, and the insomnia group estimated sleeping a bit more than 6 hours. So, about an hour difference there in estimation. And so all this has been subjective again, no surprises there. But what happened when we looked at these things objectively with EEG? Well, but this is not exactly EEG, but there was no sleep apnea in the group, that came out from the first night. But how about the other measures? Well, time in bed was no difference. In fact, as you can see here, there was no difference between of any of these variables. So time in bed was the same. Sleep latency, how long did it take to fall asleep? There was no difference, although the numbers are different. 16 minutes for the control group, 26 minutes for the insomnia group. But from a statistical standpoint, this could have been explained by randomly. There was no statistical significance there. Wakefulness after sleep onset, no difference. Total sleep time, no difference. But the number actually reversed here. Insomnia group was actually estimating the objective data. Sorry, objectively, the insomnia group actually slept more. Totally slept more than the control group, which sort of made up for the sleep latency difference there. And here we go. How about what we were looking for? Deep sleep. Was there a difference in deep sleep? No, there was no difference in any sleep stages. Both groups had about 5% stage 1 sleep, about 60% stage 2 sleep, and about 10% stage 3 sleep. In the past, by the way, stage 3 sleep, stage 4 sleep was there was a difference between stage 3 and 4 sleep, and they were combined into what is called deep sleep. But nowadays there's no difference. There's only stage 3 sleep. So yeah, just a parenthesis there. But yeah, there was no difference. From objectively speaking, there was no difference. So clearly we can see that in at least in this study, insomnia had not impacted deep sleep. And the reason I hope this will be helpful is the following: that when we think, okay, my insomnia has caused me or is causing me to have less deep sleep, and that is why I'm so tired and fatigued and exhausted, that can so easily lead us to think, okay, so I have to do something to increase my deep sleep. I have to take the supplement or use this gadget or something to just get more deep sleep, and so I feel more refreshed. But to me, that keeps us in, there's a level like we're in a we're not understanding like where our struggle truly comes from, and it can lead us into this its own circle where we're kind of experimenting, we're measuring our own deep sleep by some device or something like that, and we so easily get confused because it, we cannot impact sleep stages, but we can think we can like, oh, now it went up because I did this, etc., etc. And so I think it can be helpful because it can, knowing what we talked about here can keep us from that rabbit hole. And secondly, it can also lead us to see that so much of the struggle is truly quote unquote subjective, which is not to say it's to be dismissed in any shape or form. Like the struggle is real, but we can see that the struggle ends when, our internal narrative and the way we talk about ourselves and how we treat ourselves, when that changes, everything changes. When we're harsh and critical towards ourselves, when we're like, why can't I get this, why can't I, sleep more, why can't I get my emotions under control like other people, that type of harshness often keeps us in the loop. But when we're gentle with ourselves, when we see like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me, I've just been really hard on myself and pushing myself, and when that changes and we become gentler and kinder to ourselves, then the struggle is over. Then things become so much more peaceful. And that's what we all want, right? Peace of mind and peaceful sleep, right? So I hope this brought a lot of value to you. Let me know in the comment section what you thought, and we shall go from there. I look forward to having you back next time. For now, I'll just say bye-bye.